All right, let's jump right in. We're going to tackle a topic that, let's be honest, can feel like a total minefield: compliance. It's complicated, the stakes are super high, but if you have the right map, you can actually find a safe way through. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're building that map.
Okay, so right off the bat, let's talk about the dollars and cents. I mean, look at these numbers. They tell a really stark story. The cost of not complying, and we're talking fines, business disruptions, the whole shebang, it's almost 3 times more expensive than just doing the right thing in the first place. That's a huge financial argument right there.
So yeah, that's the multi-million-dollar question, isn't it? How do you make absolutely sure your company stays on the right side of that chart? Well, it all starts with really understanding the danger you're facing.
Because ignoring compliance, it isn't just about trying to save a few bucks in the short term. It is a massive gamble with your company's future. And we're about to see just how dangerous that gamble can be.
Just look at this number. This really puts it into perspective. This isn't some theoretical threat. In 2023, Meta got hit with a staggering $1.3 billion fine. Why? For violating GDPR, which are those super strict data protection rules over in the EU. I mean, when the consequences are measured in billions, with a B, you start to pay attention fast.
So the takeaway here is pretty clear, right? In this crazy, complex world of rules that are always changing, trying to cut corners, it's a gamble that almost always backfires. What you really need is a proactive tool, a way to see the dangers on the horizon before you crash right into them.
And what is that tool? Well, that's where the compliance risk map comes in. You should really think of it like a GPS for your entire organization, helping you navigate this super complex world of rules and regulations.
So at its heart, it's a visual tool. And that's key. This isn't about some boring list of rules buried in a binder somewhere. It's about systematically identifying where you could go wrong, figuring out just how bad it could be, and then, actually managing those risks before they totally blow up in your face.
And, the experts totally backed us up. The real power of the risk map is in the process. You find the risks, you size them up, like how likely are they to happen and how much damage could they do, and then you build a solid plan. It takes that vague sense of worry and turns it into a concrete, actionable strategy.
And this right here, this is what it usually looks like. It's a heat map. Simple, right? You take each risk and you plot it based on how likely it is versus the potential impact. And immediately, your eyes just get drawn to that top right corner, don't they? That's the red zone. Those are the critical risks that you need to deal with right now. It's such a simple visual, but it cuts through all the noise instantly.
Okay, so you're probably thinking, this sounds great, but how do I actually build one? Well, let's chart the course. It really boils down to 5 pretty clear steps.
So here's the roadmap. We're going to walk through this together. First, you have to identify your risks. Then you assess them, figure out how big they are. After that, you prioritize and map them out. Then you mitigate them with controls. And finally, and this is super important, you monitor and update the whole thing.
All right, step 1 is all about discovery. You really have to cast a wide net here. I mean, this is everything from cataloging all the relevant laws, your GDPRs, your HIPAAs, whatever applies, but it's also about getting the whole team involved. Pull in people from legal, HR, finance, operations, and just ask that super simple but really powerful question: what could possibly go wrong here?
Okay, next up, step 2. You take all those risks you found and you analyze them along 2 different axes. First is likelihood. How probable is this really? You can look at past data, how complex your processes are. Second is impact. If this thing does happen, how bad is it going to be? And you got to think beyond just the financial fines. Think about damage to your reputation, disruption to the business. This is where the risk really starts to take shape. And once you have those 2 scores, that leads you right into step 3, which is actually mapping it. You take those scores and you plot each risk right onto your heat map. This is that moment of truth where you can visually see what's a minor headache versus what's a critical 5-alarm fire kind of threat.
So once your risks are all mapped out, your priorities are crystal clear. And step 4 is deciding what to do about them. There are 4 main strategies here, often called the 4 T's. For your biggest, scariest risks, you're probably going to treat them by adding new controls. Now, if a risk is just too big and the activity causing it isn't essential, you might just terminate it altogether, stop doing it. For financial risks, you can often transfer that potential cost, through insurance. And then for all those little risks in the green zone, you might just tolerate them, accept them, but keep an eye on them.
And last, but definitely not least, step 5. This is absolutely critical. Your risk map, it's not some project you finish and then frame on the wall. It has to be a living, breathing document.
That means you're constantly monitoring things, you're giving regular updates to leadership, and you're doing a big formal review at least once a year. Plus, anytime something major changes, a new law gets passed, you launch a new product, that should trigger an immediate update.
So you do all this work, what's the big payoff? Well, it's all about gaining this massive proactive advantage.
Let's just break down why this is such a game changer. For one, it forces you to focus your precious time and money on the threats that actually matter. It completely shifts your company's culture from always putting out fires to being strategic and proactive. It also looks great to regulators and partners. It shows you're taking this stuff seriously. It gets everyone in the organization on the same page about risk. And, maybe most importantly, it creates this incredible safety net to catch problems when they're small before they become disasters.
And honestly, this quote from the source material just nails it. It says you're transforming compliance from a reactive scramble into a structured strategic activity. And that's exactly it. That shift in mindset, that's everything.
So at the end of the day, you have to remember this. The heat map itself, the chart, that's just the tool. It's not the end goal. The real value is in the conversations it starts, the priorities it clarifies, and the concrete actions you take to make your whole organization safer and stronger.
So I guess I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. When it comes to this incredibly complex landscape of compliance, is your organization just kind of flying blind and hoping for the best? Or do you have a map?